propaganda like combat operations are over 7 years ago with Bush, and now this week with Obama, we're going to expose that. We're going to expose the massive seizures and deaths from the vaccines. We're going to expose aspartame. We're going to expose the CPS. We're going to expose the police state. So search the term Bilderberg Films with an S. God bless you. You're awesome. Financial news and your call straight ahead. Stay with us. In Europe and the United States, the media is hyping you've got to get your flu shot again for H1N1 or you'll be hurt. They admit it causes tenfold increase in seizures and brain damage and Guillain-Barré, but so what? It's good for you. We'll be talking about that, all the Bilderberg information in the news, a bunch of financial news, military news. It's all coming up in this hour. But let's start getting to your phone calls right now. Let's talk to Alex in California. Alex, you're on the air.
How you doing? Thanks for taking my call, Alex. I'm a Prison Planet subscriber. Listen, my article was featured in your movie, Police Day 4, The Rise of Female. It was when you were it was the article about the Marines doing checkpoints here. If you would allow me just to explain that, go over what happened eventually, and then a couple other things I wanted to mention.
Wait a minute. Are you the newspaper reporter that interviewed me?
Yes, that's me. I'm a freelance writer, a freelance reporter from Los Angeles.
Yeah, but that was for a major newspaper that you wrote that for. I don't remember the name, but we had the press releases about the Marines running drunk driving checkpoints. Yeah, tell us about it.
Right. Okay, so what happened was this happened in December of 2008, the actual incident. I reported on it in early 2009, and it was for the Inland Empire Weekly, which is a weekly newspaper out in the Inland Empire, which is a part of Southern California, just outside of L.A. So basically what happened was I confirmed by the gunnery sergeant at the Marine base that military police were there. There was even a photo of it. I never got a hold of the person who was arrested, although I know that they did arrest at least one person, and I never got a hold of the attorney that I spoke to that was involved. But I also have an email that one of the gunnery sergeants sent me. It was from February of last year, where he was actually transferred to Japan after, I was trying to contact him for a month. It's Gunnery Sergeant Chris Cox. He sent me an email from February of 2009 basically saying that he was no longer in the country. He got transferred.
Well, what's happening is from Tennessee to California to Florida to Texas, Michigan, you name it, they have regular Army and Marines actually arresting citizens everywhere, and they just do it to see if they can get away with it. And when the governor said don't do it last year in Tennessee, they just went ahead and did it anyway, shutting down highways. I mean, this is the takeover of this country.
Right. And I just want to thank you guys for putting my article up there. I got a lot of people, getting a hold of me, couldn't believe it. It's a true story. But also, I'm from the LA area. I wanted to talk about a local case here. It goes into, the torture sites. It came out in the Daily Breeze yesterday in the Los Angeles area. It's about a man, who basically is a Muslim, he's a U.S. citizen. He claims he was tortured. The ACLU is actually trying to sue the government. If I could just read the first paragraph, it'll give you a good idea of what the story is.
Oh, they're arresting citizens all the time and torturing them and not giving them habeas corpus due process. Go ahead.
Okay, it's from the Daily Breeze. It was yesterday. If people could search it, it says, a former Hawthorne resident says he was arrested for no reason in the United Arab Emirates, blindfolded, beaten, strapped to an electric chair, and told that his wife would be raped if he didn't confess to vague charges of terrorism. Now, and then it says his name and his brother, want answers from the United States government, which they allege played a role in the 13-month ordeal. They're basically having the ACLU out here trying to get some records from the government.
Oh, by the way, the Washington Post admitted in 2002 they do torture people's children and wives in front of them. That's what the good guys do. And if people think that the globalists don't want to do this to citizens or do it to the American people, almost all their training is for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe, where the world is going. And then mentioning, the war in Iraq, basically, I wanted to mention, I don't know if you caught CNN yesterday, they had a report with David Gergen. He's a known Bilderberger. He was on the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Basically, in 1 minute, Wolf Blitzer was, parading the fact that the war was over, but in the same segment, he was talking about how there's still going to be 50,000 troops there, and they made a big deal about how it's going to be a business boom for private security forces.
No, I have the AP with the government admitting they're going to increase the security forces, the private mercs, but this is what they do. They cap the oil well 90-something days in. There's fissures everywhere. It's still leaking. And they just say, there's no more oil. Problem solved. It's not true. Obama says core exit's good for you. There's no health problems. There's no world government. Flu shots aren't hurting you. Even though it's all admitted, They just use the military tactic of denial. We're their enemy. They're the offshore bankers. They hate America. We'll be right back. Good call, Alex.
Voters are fed up with our lawmakers' inability to take action when it comes to reducing this country's $1.5 trillion federal deficit. As the Wall Street Journal reports, it's the voters who appear to be more willing to take drastic steps to do something about the nation's mounting red ink. The newspaper talked to voters in Virginia, a swing state, who say they're willing to make the tough cuts, from a national sales tax to budget cuts to higher Medicare co-pays and deductibles. The voters get it, even if the federal government doesn't. And Washington really doesn't get it. Our leaders worry about being attacked in an election year if they even suggest spending cuts or tax increases. The American people just want their leaders to lead on this issue. Too much to ask? That's why they were elected, remember? One independent voter in Richmond, Virginia, told the Journal, quote here, "I wish the politicians would be hard asses and be like, you know what? It's going to be horrible for the next few years, but you've got to shut up," unquote. Wouldn't that be refreshing? Meanwhile, we await the results of President Obama's bipartisan deficit reduction commission, which are conveniently scheduled for release after the November election. And when the recommendations finally do come, most, if not all of them, will have to be approved by Congress, which will likely render the entire exercise meaningless. Some are suggesting a popular uprising is perhaps the only way to get this country back on track. There's a piece on Infowars.com suggesting without a revolution, Americans are history. Here's the question then. If voters want the deficits addressed, why does Washington continue to ignore them? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty file and post a comment on my blog.
Jack Cafferty, thanks very much.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
We are back live, going to your phone calls and a ton of vital news here in the second hour on this live Friday edition. Yeah, a couple days ago, Cafferty of CNN plugged Infowars.com. I didn't really know what to make of that, so I analyzed it. And, of course, he was quoting a Dr. Paul Craig Roberts article that went mega viral on the web, dealing with the fact, the actual headline was "The Ecstasy of Empire," and the article ended with, "If Americans don't have a revolution, Americans are finished." You know, I don't call for a physical revolution here, and we had Dr. Roberts on that day. He's not calling for that either. He's just saying that if we don't somehow, revolution means change, get back to our Constitution and Bill of Rights, it's over. But I think CNN went with that piece to make it look like popular sentiment for revolution would be tax increases. That's not what the American people want. They want government cut, not tax increases. So they're selling it as a revolutionary idea to raise taxes when that actually lowers overall tax receipts. Every major economist admits that. When I even tune into CNBC, they admit that. They know that. But they want the control over who they tax and then who they give corporate welfare to. It's a way to consolidate the economy to a planned economy like they have in communist China. Now, we need a revolution of ideas and a revolution at the state level, peacefully taking our legislatures back and then taking control of our federal government itself that's been seized by offshore banks and corporations. That's what the New World Order is. They're converting everything to private contractors and private takeovers of highways and water and infrastructure that we as taxpayers paid for, and then they jack up the prices once they've been basically given the infrastructure. It isn't privatization, it's robbery. It's the corporations becoming government and being unaccountable.